Okay, so as I said, I'm Beau, and these are 10-minute nudges, nothing more, with the hope that you can find a way to use this to take you back to a better place or take you to a better place than where you were pre-pandemic. So let's see how this goes. This is insight number 4. This is the halfway point. We're now diving into the second half, and the title of it is Seeing Beyond a Technical Solution. I asked each of you to bring an engineer along with you. I'm not sure that's actually occurred. But for those who are watching this Tuesday, stop the video, go find an engineer, because this message is for him or her too. And we'll start off with an assumption, engineering assumption. I'm an engineer, and everyone in my generation, and perhaps yours, has a fundamental assumption that the optimum answered will be embraced by all. And by definition, the optimum answer is at the end of a long equation. And I got it. And I was very good at it. I prided myself on always having the best answer. Unfortunately, that doesn't always work exactly the way we want because as we either approach a team with an answer or we're working with a team and they're struggling and we just decide to kind of short circuit that and give them the answer, we're basically saying, I have an answer to your problems. And it could be from an internal consultant, depicted here by the woman in the cape and the mask, or by the external consultant, dressed a little bit better, that's me, um, saying the same thing. One way or another, we're actually robbing them of thinking. But we're giving them an excellent answer that's at the end of an equation. So, what does that actually do? Well, we actually don't know a lot about this group. We don't know the context of their work because we haven't been doing it. We don't know what limitations, either skills or resources they might have, like computer access or how much training they have to do the things we ask them to do. We don't know anything about their culture. In fact, we don't know much. However, we do know that answer at the end of an equation, and that's the rub. Because it's been my experience that when that occurs, bad things happen, and there's a lot of pushback as a result. So, what we want to be able to do is avoid that blind curve and admit, like I do, that I'm a recovering engineer. I've been recovering for at least 15 years now. And although in my mind, I always create the optimum solution using my equations, I have been very good at tamping that down in the back corner of one side of my brain, so I don't talk about it. Because what I want to be able to do is balance the technical side with the right answer with the social side of what are they capable of doing. Even in a stretch mode, they can't do optimum for a variety of reasons. So, can I shift the thinking off to them and see what they come up with when we put the right things on the table? So, with that in mind, I attempt to reveal the reality. And there is one way to do it. And this, you could approach a team and say, this is what we came up with. Do you like it? But that closed end question allows a yes or no answer, and people rarely say no. So that's not the appropriate way to go. Instead, we could take the new road and ask very simply uh, open ended questions that make them think. For instance, what experiences do you have that can improve how we look at this? Or what alternatives do you have that might be a better fit? These are great questions because you transfer the thinking to them. And all of a sudden, they're engaged, they're in charge, and they'll actually tell you things that you never saw because when you were observing them, they weren't doing it then. It didn't happen then, but there are real issues. So, with that in mind, I do have a couple of examples. And these are different kinds of examples. One is at a Florida hospital when I was working with a team of about 15 people for over a day, and they were trying to figure out a better way to bring patients from the curb through triage in the emergency room. And they got to a point where they wanted to share. It said, this is a pretty good design, let's share. They brought in everyone else. They shared their thinking. And at the end, somebody raised their hand and said, well, you know, this might work on during the day, but at night, you'll be killing people. And everyone sat back and said, oh my God, what's going on? And they looked around at the team and realized that since they had the training with me during the day nobody from night was invited. So they had to rearrange a team, go back, not to square one, but they had to incorporate someone else to find a better blended solution that would work for all shifts. The second example is at an insurance company where we were working with a few teams once again and working through some problems that they wanted to solve and some potential solutions. And whenever they socialized with the rest of the department, there was always one woman who pushed back, saying, "Nope, I do it better. I do it better. You should do it my way." She was labeled as a complainer before I arrived. So she was just a complainer. And when we designed pilots and put the pilot design or experiment design on the table, she dug in deep. She said, "There's no way that this is better than mine." So I said, "Okay, fine. Let's run it in parallel. We'll do two pilots. Over here, we'll do it the way we have on the table. Over here, we'll do it the way this woman wants it done." So we ran the pilots, and the woman's process was better. The issue was the way she approached her pushback was irritating. It's not that she didn't have a better idea, she didn't know how to say it in a way that wasn't irritating. So they incorporated her ideas and she became less irritable. So those are some great examples, but every time you do this, you'll find a great example. These are just two, and it's well worth the effort. So moving on, whoops. The upside for engineers is that not all is lost. It's still a process. So you can feel comfortable saying, well, okay, I can live with this new process because it's nothing more than a cycle of communicating and consensus building where everybody involved, each stakeholder, gets an opportunity to think about it and engage. And then the real reality becomes apparent. And we do so within a model that the engineers just love to hug. We'll do it under PDCA. So starting up the top left, we start with a socialization plan because this is a socialization process. Start with a plan. Trigger the plan. Share your thinking. And then at the end of that, you have two questions to answer. First, did the group agree with us? And second, did we cover everybody? Did we engage everybody? And the adjust or act is saying, okay, if they didn't agree with us, we have to change our thinking. And if we didn't include it, if we couldn't engage everyone, what did we learn about that so we could do a better job of engaging next time? And thus it becomes a cycle. So with all that, one of the big questions is, what the heck do you share if you're going to share it with people? And my response is basically everything. You share the problem that you were assigned to solve. You share the gaps that you found. You share the data. You share the assumptions you've made in coming to the conclusion that you have. You share the people who might be involved, who might be impacted by it. You share everything. And in doing so, they get a sense of what the heck you're thinking, and then they can respond. So you basically share everything under the sun, although in possibly shorter fashion than it took to get you there. And then the next question is, who do you talk to? Well, it depends. So here we go back to the tool that you saw last week. And either you or your teams, depending on who's doing the talking, is in the middle. And you look at the people who might be impacted by this, and you have these different categories of people. Now, these different categories, if they're impacted, could be impacted differently. So you might want to approach them differently. They might just be mildly impacted or super huge impacted. So, but you get to think about who's involved, the peers, the subordinates, the customers, the boss. And you can make up a list, say, here are the people we have to talk to. We may choose different messages for different groups, but here are the people we have to talk to. So we have what to talk about and who to talk to, which is a great start of a plan. So that's my nudge. And I really wanted to talk about insight number 4, because I came from a background of always having the answer at the end of an equation, and I did quite well at it. And what I learned 15 years or more ago is that people weren't really engaging the way I wanted them to, and my perfect solution wasn't working. So it doesn't see the whole picture. And what I found a lot of happiness and joy is engaging others. And I've learned so much by engaging others and having them share their thinking because we all want to be heard during change. Change is hard. So the more we engage them, the more they feel like they're part of it. And with that in mind, you actually have a chance to improve both your outcomes and the chances of success. Now, in terms of your assignment, I'd like you to design your first cycle. So think of something that you are currently working on, a project or one that's coming up, and walk yourself through the plan. Who should you talk to? You already have the tool. Line it up. What do you want to share? Be specific on what you want to share. And then how do you connect? It could be formal or informal. I would first try the ones that your company is most comfortable using. Communication means your company's most comfortable using because you don't have to do a lot of push at that time to get it set up. Then when do you want to do it? And then talk it up and listen and figure out, do they agree? If not, what should we do? And have we covered everybody? Have we engaged everybody? And if not, how do we think differently about finding those we couldn't and engaging those that we couldn't find? That's your assignment. And I'm hoping you'll be able to at least start on this because on Friday, this could be a really cool discussion. And this is why. The coolest conversations I've heard on multiple teams doing this is when they share with each other what they tried to do to engage others and what worked, what didn't, and how they're thinking about changing. Because then you're hearing other people in the same boat as you, and you can steal shamelessly. And that's no problem at all stealing shamelessly. And they might have some great ideas that you simply hadn't thought of. So I really, really like the collaborating on the socialization. It's a really special moment. And with that, I will stop sharing and go back to my Hawaiian shirt and hand it back to Eric.
Yes, better meetings, less muting. There you go. All right, thank you very much, Beau. That was really interesting. I appreciate that insight. Hopefully, everybody that listened also appreciated it.